How could everything fall apart so fast? All because I set boundaries with my husband's parents. What would you do if, after years of feeling unappreciated, your husband sided with his poor family and served you with legal papers, leaving you out on the street? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I stood in our pristine living room, my arms crossed, watching Ewan's face crumble as I delivered the news that would change everything. "Your parents are not welcome here anymore," I said, my voice steady and final. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Ewan dropped his coffee mug. It shattered against our hardwood floor, sending ceramic shards across the room. Our 7-year-old son Liam looked up from his tablet, confusion spreading across his small face. "What did you just say?" Ewan's voice was barely a whisper. "You heard me. Hazel and Cohen are banned from this house. I'm done pretending to be okay with their constant visits, their mooching, their judgment." I kept my tone measured, reasonable. "I'm protecting our peace, Ewan. Someone has to." My husband of 8 years stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "Virelai, they're my parents. They come over once a week for Sunday dinner. They bring groceries half the time." "Cheap groceries," I corrected, "store-brand everything. And they eat more than they bring. Plus, your mother always has something to say about how I run this house, how I dress Liam, how I—" "That's not true, and you know it." Ewan's voice was getting louder. "My mother adores you. She's never said a negative word about you in her life." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, she's subtle about it. The way she reorganizes my kitchen when she thinks I'm not looking. The way she suggests I should cook more traditional meals. The way she looks at our furniture like she's calculating how much we spent. They're struggling financially, Virelai. Dad's been out of work for 6 months. Mum's working 2 part-time jobs. They're not judging our furniture. They're probably wondering how we can afford it when they can barely make rent." "Exactly my point." I threw my hands up. "I don't want that energy in our home. I don't want Liam growing up thinking it's normal to struggle, to settle for less. We've worked hard for what we have." Ewan bent down to clean up the broken mug, his hands shaking. "What we have. I work 60 hours a week as an engineer. You work in HR, we're comfortable, but we're not rich. And even if we were, that doesn't give us the right to look down on people who are having a hard time." "I'm not looking down on anyone. I'm setting boundaries." I pulled out my phone and showed him the text I'd already sent to his mother. "Hazel, we need some space as a family. Please don't come by anymore." "You already sent it?" The color drained from Ewan's face. "Without talking to me first?" "I'm talking to you now." My phone rang. It was my mother, Margot. Perfect timing. "Hi, Mum." "Honey, I just wanted to check in. How did Ewan take the news about his parents?" I put her on speaker, shooting Ewan a defiant look. He's adjusting to the idea. "Good for you, sweetheart. You've been too accommodating for too long. Those people never appreciated what you've done for them. Remember when his mother brought that awful casserole to Liam's birthday party? Store-bought noodles and canned sauce. Embarrassing." Ewan's jaw clenched. "Margot, with all due respect, my parents do their best with what they have." "Oh, Ewan, you're such a good son. But sometimes being a good son means being a bad husband. Virelai deserves better than having to entertain charity cases every week." "They're not charity cases," Ewan exploded. "They're family." "Exactly," my mother continued smoothly. "And family should know their place. Virelai's place is in a beautiful home with a successful husband and a bright future. Your parents' place is, well, somewhere else." I watched my husband's face transform. The hurt was still there, but something else was creeping in, something that looked like disgust. "Virelai," he said quietly, "you need to choose. Right now, are you going to call my mother back and apologize, or are you going to keep going down this path?" "I'm not apologizing for having standards, Ewan. I'm not apologizing for wanting better for our family." "Better than what? Better than love? Better than loyalty, better than treating people with basic human decency. Better than settling, I shouted. Better than pretending everything's fine when your parents show up here every week, eating our food, judging our choices, making me feel like I have to defend every purchase, every decision, every aspect of our life. Ewan was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to the kitchen and came back with his wedding ring. He placed it carefully on the coffee table. "I'm going to stay at Daniel's tonight," he said, referring to his younger brother. "I need to think." "About what?" "About whether I married the woman I thought I did." He kissed Liam's forehead, grabbed his keys and walked out. The front door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than if he'd slammed it. My mother's voice came through the speaker. "Don't worry, honey. He'll come around. Men always do." But as I looked at that gold band sitting on our coffee table, catching the afternoon light, I wondered if maybe I'd pushed too far this time. The next morning at Liam's school, I could feel the stares. Word traveled fast in our suburban community, especially among the parent network. I held my head high as I walked Liam to his classroom, but the whispers followed us down the hallway. "Is it true about Ewan's parents?" Jennifer Martinez asked as we reached the classroom door. Her voice was carefully neutral, but I could see the judgment in her eyes. "We're just setting some healthy boundaries," I replied smoothly. "Every family needs space to grow." "But they're such sweet people. Hazel volunteers in the library every Tuesday. Cohen helped fix the playground equipment last month for free." "I'm sure they're lovely. It's just not working for our family dynamic right now." Jennifer nodded, but I could tell she wasn't buying it. As I walked back to my car, I pulled out my phone and opened the parent group chat. Maybe I needed to get ahead of this narrative. Viralai. "Hey everyone, just wanted to address some rumors that might be floating around. Ewan and I are working through some family boundary issues. Sometimes you have to make tough decisions for the good of your marriage and your child. Hope everyone understands." The responses came quickly. Sarah Thompson. "Of course, every family is different." Mike Chen. "Hope everything works out." Jennifer Martinez. "Praying for your family." But then Daniel, Ewan's brother, responded in a way that made my stomach drop. Daniel Greaves. Interesting way to spin it, Viralai. For anyone wondering, my parents have been banned from seeing their grandson because they're not wealthy enough for my sister-in-law's standards. They're devastated. The chat went silent. Then the responses started flooding in, and they weren't supportive anymore. Jennifer Martinez. "Oh my God, is that what this is about?" Sarah Thompson. "That's horrible. Your in-laws are wonderful people." Mike Chen. "This is really disappointing, Viralai." I quickly typed back. "That's not what this is about at all." Daniel doesn't have the full story. This is about respect and boundaries, not money. Daniel Greaves. "Really? Because the text you sent my mother specifically mentioned not wanting that energy in your home." "What energy?" "The energy of people who work 2 jobs just to survive." My phone started buzzing with notifications. People were responding faster than I could read. Most of them were defending Hazel and Cohen, sharing stories about how kind they'd been, how they'd helped other families in the community. I called my sister Seren, desperate for support. "Seren, I need you to post something in the parent chat. People are completely misunderstanding what happened." "Viralai." Seren's voice was hesitant. I saw the messages. What exactly am I supposed to say? "Tell them that Ewan's parents have been overstepping boundaries. Tell them about how his mother rearranges my kitchen, how they always have opinions about everything." Do they really do that, though? I've been around them plenty of times, and they seem pretty respectful to me. Whose side are you on here? I'm on your side, always, but I'm also confused. Last month you were telling me how grateful you were that Hazel watched Liam when he was sick, and you couldn't take time off work. That's different. How? I couldn't explain it without sounding petty, so I hung up and called my mother instead. "Mum, I need you to call some of the other parents. People are getting the wrong idea about what happened." "Of course, sweetheart. What should I tell them?" Tell them that Ewan's parents have been taking advantage of our generosity, that they've been making inappropriate comments about our lifestyle, that I had to protect my family. Were they really doing those things? They were. It's complicated, Mum, but I need people to understand that I'm not the villain here. You're not a villain, honey. You're a woman who knows her worth. I'll make some calls. That afternoon, I threw myself into work at the corporate office, trying to distract myself from the chaos at home. My coworker, Miles Carter, stopped by my desk with coffee. "Rough day?" he asked, his voice warm with concern. "You could say that." I accepted the coffee gratefully. Miles had always been easy to talk to. Single, successful, no complicated family drama to deal with. "Want to talk about it?" I glanced around the office, then motioned for him to follow me to the break room. Once we were alone, the whole story came pouring out. Well, my version of it. "So, I finally stood up to my in-laws, and now everyone's acting like I'm some kind of monster," I concluded. Miles leaned against the counter, studying my face. "It sounds like you're in a really difficult position." "Exactly. Someone gets it." I felt a wave of relief. Ewan doesn't understand that I'm trying to protect our family's future. His parents are sweet, but they're limited. I don't want Liam growing up thinking that struggling financially is normal or acceptable. "What does Ewan think about all this?" "He's being loyal to his parents, which I understand, but he's not thinking about the bigger picture. He left last night, left his wedding ring on the table and everything." Miles raised an eyebrows. "Wow, that's serious." "I know, but maybe it's what we need. Maybe some space will help him see things more clearly." "And if it doesn't?" I looked at Miles, really looked at him. He was attractive, successful, uncomplicated. Everything felt so simple when I talked to him. "Then maybe I'll realize I deserve better," I said quietly. Something shifted in the air between us. Miles stepped closer, and for a moment I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he touched my hand gently. "You do deserve better, Viralai. You deserve someone who puts you first." That evening, I came home to an empty house. Ewan still wasn't back, and Liam was at my mother's for the night. I sat in our living room, looking at Ewan's wedding ring still sitting on the coffee table, and tried to convince myself that I'd done the right thing. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. He knows. My blood ran cold. Knows what? About my conversation with Miles. About the way I'd been talking about Ewan to other people. About the lies I'd been telling to make myself look better. I stared at those two words until they blurred together, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I wondered if I was in over my head. The next few days passed in a blur of whispered conversations and sideways glances. At work, I found myself spending more and more time with Miles, drawn to his uncomplicated support and the way he looked at me like I was the most reasonable person in the world. "How are things at home?" he asked as we shared lunch in the office break room. "Ewan's still staying at his brother's place. He won't even take my calls." I picked at my salad, not really hungry. "I think our marriage might actually be over." "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," Miles said carefully. "From what you've told me, it sounds like you two want different things out of life." "Exactly. I want success, stability, a future for our son. He wants to keep carrying his parents' baggage forever." Miles reached across the table and covered my hand with his. "You're an amazing woman, Viralai. Any man would be lucky to have you." The touch sent electricity up my arm. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. Instead, I turned my hand over so our palms were touching. "Thank you," I whispered. "I needed to hear that. Maybe we could grab dinner sometime, just as friends. You shouldn't have to go through this alone." I knew it was wrong. I was still married, still wearing my wedding ring. But Ewan had abandoned me, chosen his parents over his wife. Maybe it was time I chose myself. "I'd like that," I said. Over the next week, Miles and I began texting constantly. Innocent at first, just friendly check-ins and work-related messages. But gradually, the conversations became more personal, more intimate, Miles, thinking about you. Hope your day is getting better. Viralai, it is now. You always know what to say. Miles, you deserve to be appreciated, really appreciated. Viralai, I can't remember the last time Ewan made me feel special. Miles, his loss. Any man who can't see what he has doesn't deserve you. The messages became my lifeline, the bright spot in days filled with hostile looks from other parents and Liam's constant questions about why Daddy wasn't coming home. When is Dad coming back? Liam asked one evening as I tucked him into bed. I don't know, sweetheart. Daddy and I are having some grown-up problems. Is it because of Grandma Hazel and Grandpa Cohen? I heard you yelling about them. My heart clenched. It's complicated, baby, but none of this is your fault, okay? I miss them. Grandma Hazel was teaching me to make cookies. I know you miss them, but sometimes families need breaks from each other. Will I see them again? I didn't know how to answer that. We'll see, Liam. We'll see. That night, after Liam was asleep, I met Miles for dinner at a restaurant across town. We talked for hours about everything except my marriage, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like myself again. I should probably get home, I said as the restaurant began to empty. Of course. Miles signaled for the check. Thank you for tonight. I really enjoyed spending time with you. Me too. In the parking lot, under the soft glow of the streetlights, Miles walked me to my car. The air was charged with possibility and danger. Viralai, he said softly, stepping closer. Yes? I know this is complicated, but I can't stop thinking about you. Before I could respond, he kissed me, soft at first, then deeper when I didn't pull away. For a moment, I let myself get lost in it, in feeling wanted, desired, chosen. When we finally broke apart, reality came crashing back. I should go, I whispered. Will I see you tomorrow? Yes, at work. You know what I mean. I looked into his eyes, seeing my own longing reflected there. Yes, I said. You'll see me tomorrow. The affair began in earnest after that. Late dinners, stolen moments in empty conference rooms, text messages that grew increasingly bold. I told myself that Ewan had abandoned our marriage first, that I was just finding comfort where I could, but my sister Seren was getting suspicious. You seem different, she said when she stopped by to drop off some of Liam's things. Happier, but also, I don't know, secretive. I'm just trying to move forward with my life. Ewan's made his choice. Have you two actually talked about divorce, or are you just assuming? He left Seren. He chose his parents over his wife. What else is there to discuss? Seren picked up my phone to show me a photo of Liam from earlier that day, and I saw her eyes widen as she noticed my recent text notifications. Who's Miles? She asked, her voice carefully neutral. A coworker. A friend. A friend who sends you messages at 11 p.m. saying, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Beautiful." My stomach dropped. Seren, it's not what you think. Really? Because it looks like you're having an affair. My marriage is over. Ewan walked out on me. He's staying at his brother's house, Viralai. That's not the same thing as walking out. People separate to think things through all the time. Whose side are you on? I'm on the side of not blowing up your life over a fight about Sunday dinners. It wasn't just about Sunday dinners. Then what was it about, really? I stared at my sister, trying to find words that would make her understand. But the truth was, I wasn't entirely sure anymore. What had started as legitimate frustration with my in-laws had somehow spiraled into this. My husband gone, my reputation in tatters, and me sneaking around with a coworker. I need you to leave, I said finally. Viralai, please, just go. After Seren left, I sat alone in my perfect living room, surrounded by all the things I'd worked so hard to acquire, and wondered how everything had gotten so complicated. My phone buzzed with another anonymous message. He knows about Miles. This time, I didn't wonder what it meant. This time, I knew exactly what was coming. The school's annual spring festival arrived like a storm I couldn't avoid. Liam had been looking forward to it for weeks, and despite everything falling apart around us, I wasn't going to let him down. I spent extra time getting ready that morning, choosing a designer dress that screamed success and confidence. If the other parents wanted to whisper about me, at least I'd give them something impressive to whisper about. "You look pretty, Mummy," Liam said as we walked toward the school. "Thank you, baby. Are you excited about the festival? Will Daddy be there?" My chest tightened. "I don't know, sweetheart." But as we approached the school grounds, I saw him. Ewan was standing near the face painting booth, looking tired but determined. He was wearing the blue shirt I'd bought him last Christmas, and for a moment my heart ached with missing him. Then I saw who was with him. Hazel and Cohen stood beside their son, Hazel's arm linked through Ewan's, Cohen's hand resting protectively on Ewan's shoulder. They looked like what they were, a family closing ranks against a threat. "Grandma! Grandpa!" Liam broke away from me and ran toward them. I watched as Hazel scooped my son into her arms, her face lighting up with genuine joy. Cohen ruffled Liam's hair, and Ewan smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him in weeks. They looked happy, complete, like they didn't need me at all. Viralai. Jennifer Martinez appeared at my elbow. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Why wouldn't I be here? It's my son's school festival." "Of course, it's just, well, things have been tense lately." I forced a bright smile. "Everything's fine, Jennifer. Better than fine, actually. Sometimes you have to clear out the toxic elements in your life before you can really thrive." Jennifer's eyebrows shot up. "Toxic elements?" "Some people just bring negative energy wherever they go. They can't stand to see others succeed, so they try to drag everyone down to their level." I spoke loudly enough for nearby parents to hear, including Ewan's family. I saw Hazel's face crumple, saw Cohen's jaw tighten with anger. "I'm not sure what you mean," Jennifer said carefully. "Oh, I think you do. Some people think that just because they're struggling, everyone else should struggle too. They can't handle being around success and happiness, so they create drama and chaos." "Viralai, stop." Ewan appeared beside us, his voice low and dangerous. "Not here, not in front of Liam." "I'm not doing anything wrong, Ewan. I'm just being honest about our situation." "Our situation? You mean the situation where you banned my parents from our home for the crime of being poor?" Several parents had stopped their conversations to listen. I felt their eyes on us, felt the weight of their judgment. "That's not what happened, and you know it. Your parents have boundary issues. They don't respect our marriage or our choices. I had to protect our family." "Protect our family from what? From love? From support? From people who would do anything for us?" "From people who don't understand our lifestyle. From people who make me feel guilty for every nice thing we have. From people who..." "From people who what, Viralai? Say it. Tell everyone what you really think of my parents." The festival seemed to have gone quiet around us. Even the children had stopped playing, sensing the adult drama unfolding. "Fine," I said, my voice carrying across the schoolyard. "From people who don't belong in our world. From people who can't afford to contribute equally to family gatherings but still expect to be included. From people who judge every decision we make because they can't make those same choices themselves." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I saw Hazel turn away, her shoulders shaking. Cohen put his arm around his wife, his face a mask of hurt and dignity. "There it is," Ewan said quietly. "There's the truth. My wife thinks my parents don't deserve to be part of our family because they don't have enough money." "That's not..." "It's exactly what you said, Viralai. In front of half the school, in front of our son." I looked around at the faces surrounding us. Parents I'd known for years, people I'd served on committees with, families I'd considered friends. They were all staring at me with disgust and disappointment. "You don't understand," I said desperately. "You don't know the whole story." "Then tell us," said Sarah Thompson, stepping forward. "Explain to us why Hazel and Cohen, who volunteer at the school, who help other families, who've never said a bad word about anyone, don't deserve to see their grandson. They have opinions about everything. They make suggestions about how I should run my household. Like what? Sarah pressed. I scrambled for examples, but under the pressure of all those staring eyes, I couldn't think of anything that didn't sound petty and ridiculous. They reorganize my kitchen sometimes. They help clean up after dinner, Ewan said flatly. That's not reorganizing. That's being helpful. They bring cheap groceries. They bring what they can afford, Cohen spoke for the first time, his voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. We thought it was better to contribute something than nothing. They judge our furniture, our choices. When? Hazel asked, finally turning to face me. When did we ever judge anything you've done? When did we ever make you feel bad about your success? I stared at her. This woman who'd welcomed me into her family, who'd babysat Liam countless times, who'd brought homemade soup when I was sick. I tried to remember a single instance of the judgment I'd accused her of, and came up empty. You look at things. You calculate prices in your head. Because we're trying to figure out how we can afford similar things for our own home someday, Cohen said sadly. We admire what you've built. We've never resented it. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel my carefully constructed narrative crumbling around me. Mommy, Liam's small voice cut through the tension. Why are Grandma and Grandpa crying? I looked down at my son, his face confused and frightened, and realized what I'd done. I'd humiliated the people who loved him most, destroyed relationships that mattered to him, all because of my own insecurities and pride. Viralai, Ewan said quietly, we need to talk. I have something for you. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. Not here, I whispered, finally understanding that I'd gone too far. Yes, here. You made this public, so we'll finish it in public. My hands shook as I took the envelope, knowing that whatever was inside would change everything forever. The law office smelled like leather and disappointment. I sat across from Ewan and his attorney, the manila envelope's contents spread across the polished conference table like evidence at a crime scene, which, I supposed, they were. Let's go through this systematically, said Patricia Wells, Ewan's lawyer. She was a sharp-faced woman in her 50s who looked at me like I was something unpleasant she'd scraped off her shoe. First, we have the text messages between you and Miles Carter. She slid a stack of printed screenshots across the table. These span 3 weeks, beginning 2 days after you banned Mr. Greaves's parents from your home. I stared at my own words, printed in black and white. Messages that had seemed innocent in the moment now looked damning and deliberate. Can't stop thinking about you. Ewan doesn't understand me like you do. I wish I'd met you first. Last night was incredible. These are private communications, I said weakly. You can't use these. Actually, I can, Patricia replied. They were sent using company equipment which makes them discoverable. Your employer was very cooperative once they understood the situation. My stomach dropped. My employer? Oh yes, we spoke with HR. Apparently, there have been some concerns about your conduct with Mr. Carter. Extended lunch breaks, closed-door meetings, staying late together. They're conducting their own investigation. I felt the walls closing in around me. This is harassment. You're trying to destroy my life. No, Mrs. Greaves, you did that yourself. Patricia pulled out another set of documents. These are your social media posts and group chat messages where you systematically lied about your in-laws' behavior. She read directly from the printouts. Hazel constantly criticizes my parenting. Cohen makes inappropriate comments about our finances. They show up unannounced and expect to be fed. They've been taking advantage of our generosity for years. I was venting to friends. You were creating a false narrative to justify your actions. We interviewed several people from your social circle. No one has ever witnessed the behavior you described. In fact, multiple witnesses describe your in-laws as respectful, helpful, and grateful. Ewan spoke for the first time since we'd sat down. Tell her about the recording, Patricia. My blood turned to ice. What recording? Patricia pressed play on a small digital recorder. My own voice filled the room, crystal clear. His parents are sweet, but they're limited. I don't want Liam growing up thinking that struggling financially is normal or acceptable. It was my conversation with Miles from the office break room. Someone had been listening. Someone had recorded everything. This recording was made by a concerned colleague who overheard your conversation and felt it was relevant to your husband's custody case. Custody case? The words came out as a whisper. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences, Viralai? Ewan's voice was steady, but I could see the pain behind his eyes. Did you think you could cheat on me, ban my parents from our home, lie to our friends and neighbors, and everything would just go back to normal? I never meant for things to go this far. But they did go this far. You made choices, and now we all have to live with them. Patricia pulled out the final set of documents. Temporary custody agreement. Mr. Greaves will have primary custody of Liam. You'll have supervised visitation every other weekend. Supervised? You can't take my son away from me. We're not taking him away. We're protecting him from the instability you've created, from the lies you've told, from the chaos you've brought into his life. This is insane. I made one mistake. One mistake. Ewan's composure finally cracked. You banned my parents from seeing their grandson because they're not rich enough for you. You lied about them to anyone who would listen. You cheated on me with your co-worker. You humiliated my family in front of half the school. Which one of those is the one mistake? I stared at my husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, and saw a stranger. The gentle, forgiving man I'd married was gone, replaced by someone who looked at me with disgust and disappointment. I want another lawyer. I want to fight this. That's your right, Patricia said, but I should warn you that we have more evidence than what we've shown you today. Bank records showing unusual spending patterns, hotel receipts, witness statements from your affair partner confirming the timeline. If you force this to go to trial, all of it becomes public record. The room spun around me. Miles gave you witness statements. Mr. Carter was very cooperative once he understood the legal implications of his involvement with a married woman. He's concerned about his own career and reputation. Of course he was. Miles had never promised me anything beyond secret dinners and stolen kisses. When things got complicated, he'd protected himself. Just like I should have protected my marriage. There's one more thing, Patricia continued. The restraining order. What restraining order? You're prohibited from contacting or approaching Mr. and Mrs. Greaves Sr. You've caused them significant emotional distress through your actions and public statements. Any violation of this order will result in immediate arrest. I thought about Hazel's face at the school festival, the way she'd turned away when I'd said those horrible things about her. I thought about Cohen's quiet dignity, as I'd essentially called him a freeloader in front of dozens of people. They're Liam's grandparents. Yes, and they'll continue to have a relationship with him. Through his father. You've forfeited your right to control that relationship. The papers were placed in front of me to sign. Divorce proceedings, custody arrangements, property division, the dismantling of 8 years of marriage, reduced to legal documents and court orders. What about the house? I asked. Mr. Greaves will retain ownership. You have 48 hours to collect your personal belongings and vacate the premises. Where am I supposed to go? That's not our concern, Patricia said without sympathy. You should have thought about that before you decided to blow up your life. I signed the papers with a shaking hand, each signature feeling like another nail in the coffin of the life I'd built. As I walked out of that law office, I realized that in trying to elevate myself above Ewan's poor parents, I'd lost everything that actually mattered. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. Mum told me what happened. I'm sorry, but I can't support you in this anymore. What you did was wrong. Even my own family was abandoning me now. I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring at the legal documents that had just destroyed my life, and finally understood the true cost of my pride. The moving truck looked like a hearse parked outside what used to be my home. I stood on the sidewalk, clutching the custody papers and restraining order, watching strangers load my belongings into cardboard boxes. "Ma'am, we need to know where you want these delivered," the head mover called out. I'm not sure yet." The words felt foreign in my mouth. 2 weeks ago, I'd been a successful HR coordinator with a beautiful home and a family. Now I was homeless, unemployed, and facing supervised visitation with my own son. Ewan emerged from the house carrying Liam's backpack. Our son, my son, was staying with his father. The custody arrangement was temporary, the lawyers had said, but we all knew it would become permanent once the full investigation was complete. "Mummy!" Liam ran toward me, and for a moment, everything else faded away. I knelt down and hugged him tightly, breathing in his familiar scent of apple shampoo and childhood innocence. "Are you going on a trip?" he asked, looking at the moving truck with confusion. "Something like that, baby." "When are you coming home?" I looked over his head at Ewan, who was watching us with carefully controlled emotion. Behind him, I could see Hazel through the living room window, tidying up the kitchen she'd been banned from just a few weeks ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while," I told Liam, "but I'll see you soon, okay?" "Will you still read me bedtime stories?" My throat tightened. "When I can, sweetheart, when I can." Seren appeared at my elbow, her face grim. She'd agreed to help me pack, but the warmth between us was gone, replaced by duty and disappointment. "The movers are asking about your bedroom furniture," she said quietly. "Ewan can keep it. I can't afford storage right now anyway." "Where are you going to stay?" "Mom said I could use her guest room temporarily." The word temporarily hung in the air like a question neither of us wanted to answer. "Viralai, we need to talk." Ewan approached us, his voice carefully neutral. "About the visitation schedule." I stood up, keeping my hand on Liam's shoulder. "What about it?" "The court-appointed supervisor will be Sarah Martinez. She's agreed to facilitate visits at the community center on Saturday afternoons." Sarah Martinez. Jennifer's sister-in-law, someone who'd witnessed my meltdown at the school festival. Someone who'd heard me say those horrible things about Hazel and Cohen. "I suppose she was your choice?" "Actually, she volunteered. Despite everything that's happened, she believes Liam needs his mother in his life." The generosity of that statement hit me like a physical blow. Even now, even after everything I'd done, these people were showing me more kindness than I deserved. "Ewan, I started to say something, maybe an apology, maybe a plea for forgiveness. But he held up his hand. "Don't, please. We're past that now." "But I need you to know that I never meant for things to go this far. I was trying to protect what we'd built. By tearing down the people who helped us build it." I had no answer for that. How could I explain that somewhere along the way, I'd started believing that love was a finite resource, that accepting his parents' affection somehow diminished my own worth? "The movers are finished," Seren said softly. "We should go." I knelt down to hug Liam one more time. "I love you, baby. Always remember that." "I love you too, Mommy. Will you call me tonight?" I looked at Ewan, who nodded slightly. "Yes, I'll call you tonight." As I walked towards Serene's car, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Hazel approaching, her face kind but sad. "Viralai, wait." I froze, remembering the restraining order. "I'm not supposed to talk to you." "I know, but I needed to say something before you left." She stopped a few feet away from me, respecting the legal boundaries I'd forced between us. "I want you to know that we never judged you. We never resented your success or your beautiful home. We were proud of what you and Ewan had accomplished together." Tears burned my eyes. "Hazel, Let me finish. We loved you like a daughter. We welcomed you into our family with open hearts. And despite everything that's happened, we still want Liam to know his mother. Will never speak badly of you to him, no matter what. The grace of her words shattered something inside me. This woman, whom I'd publicly humiliated and legally banned from her own grandson's life, was offering me forgiveness I hadn't asked for and didn't deserve. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything." "I know you are. And someday, when you've figured out what really matters, maybe we can find a way to heal this family. For Liam's sake." She turned and walked back toward the house, toward her son and grandson, toward the family I'd torn apart with my pride and insecurity. I got into Serene's car and watched through the rear window as my old life disappeared behind us. The house where I'd planned to raise my son, the neighborhood where I'd built my reputation, the family I'd destroyed because I thought I was better than them. "What are you going to do now?" Serene asked as we drove toward our mother's house. "I don't know. Find a new job, I guess. Figure out how to rebuild. Do you understand what you did wrong?" I was quiet for a long moment, thinking about Hazel's kindness, about Liam's confusion, about Ewan's disappointed face. "I thought love was about choosing sides," I said finally. "I thought that for Ewan to love me completely, he had to love his parents less. I thought that protecting our family meant keeping other people out. And now? Now I know that love isn't a pie with limited slices. Ewan loving his parents didn't mean he loved me less. Their presence in our lives didn't diminish what we had, it made it richer. So why did you do it? Because I was scared that I wasn't enough, that I didn't deserve what we'd built, that somehow their struggles reflected poorly on me. I turned my insecurities into weapons and used them to hurt the people who loved us most." We pulled into my mother's driveway, and I saw her waiting on the porch. Margot Lane, who'd encouraged every bad decision I'd made, who'd validated every cruel thought I'd harbored about Ewan's family. "Are you going to tell Mom the truth?" Serene asked. "What's the truth?" "That you destroyed your marriage because you were ashamed of your in-laws' financial situation. That you cheated on your husband and lied to everyone about the reasons. That you lost your son because you chose pride over family." I looked at my mother, waiting to comfort me and tell me that everyone else was wrong, that I was the victim in this story. "Yes," I said, "I'm going to tell her the truth." As I walked up the driveway toward my uncertain future, I carried with me the weight of every choice I'd made, every bridge I'd burned, every relationship I'd destroyed. But I also carried Hazel's words about healing, about finding a way back to what mattered. It would take years to rebuild the trust I'd shattered, years to prove that I'd learned from my mistakes, years to show Liam that his mother was capable of growth and change. But for the first time since this whole nightmare began, I had something I'd been missing all along: the truth about who I really was and who I wanted to become. The door closed behind me as I entered my mother's house, homeless but not hopeless, broken but not beyond repair. The real work of rebuilding my life, and maybe, someday, my family, was just beginning.